The Haunted House Party, a psychological horror story. On a chilly Halloween night, a group of friends decided to have a party at an old mansion on the edge of town. The house was big and dark, with broken windows and a creaky door. People said it was haunted, but Sarah, the leader of the group, thought it would be fun. She loved scary stories and wanted to explore the house. Sarah, Alex, Jamie, and a few others arrived at the mansion. The wind howled and the trees swayed. The friends joked and laughed as they entered the dusty house, but there was a strange feeling in the air. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, and shadows danced in the corners. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Alex asked, looking uneasy. He had heard the rumors too, but Sarah just smiled. "Don't be scared, it's just an old house. Let's have some fun," she said, her excitement growing. As they walked through the dark hallways, they found old furniture covered in white sheets. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like decorations. The atmosphere was spooky, but Sarah loved it. She felt like a brave explorer. In the attic, Sarah spotted a dusty wooden box sitting in the corner. It was beautifully carved, with strange symbols on it. "Look at this," she shouted to her friends. "I wonder what's inside." "Sarah, maybe we shouldn't touch it," Jamie warned, glancing at the box nervously. "What if it's cursed?" But Sarah was curious. The box seemed to call to her. Ignoring her friend's concerns, she reached out and opened it. A chill ran through the room, and a strange wind blew, making the candles flicker. As the lid creaked open, a dark mist spilled out, swirling around them. The friends gasped, and the air grew heavy. Something terrible had been released, and they were about to find out what curiosity could really bring. As the dark mist floated in the air, Sarah felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The whispers in the room grew louder, echoing her thoughts. "What have I done?" she whispered, her heart racing. Her friends looked around, eyes wide with terror. "Sarah, close the box. We need to get out of here," Alex shouted, his voice shaking. He felt a chill creep up his spine, and he could almost see shadows moving in the corners of the attic. But Sarah was frozen. The mist seemed to dance around her, pulling her closer. She felt a strange connection to it, as if it was trying to tell her something. "Wait, I want to see what happens," she said, her voice soft but full of determination. "Are you crazy?" Jamie exclaimed, stepping back. "This is not a game, we should leave now." The other friends looked at each other nervously. They all felt the fear, but Sarah felt something else, curiosity. She wanted to know what the mist was, what secrets the box held. Ignoring their warnings, she stepped closer, reaching out a trembling hand. The mist swirled faster, forming shapes that looked like faces. "Join us," they whispered in soft, eerie voices. Sarah felt a thrill run through her. It was scary, but also exciting. She wanted to know more. "Sarah, please, don't do this," Alex begged, panic rising in his voice. He took a step toward her, but the mist pushed him back with a cold gust. Suddenly, the attic door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The friends screamed, and Sarah's heart sank. The laughter and fun of the party felt like a distant memory now. The room was dark and filled with shadows. "Look!" Jamie pointed at the box. The mist began to swirl around it again, and strange lights flickered. "We need to leave before it's too late." But Sarah couldn't move. The voices were calling her, promising her answers, secrets, and power. "Just a little longer," she thought. "I want to know what it wants." The whispers grew louder, filling her mind. "Open your heart to us. We will give you what you desire." Sarah's breath quickened. She thought of her feelings for both Alex and Jamie, the confusion that always lingered. The box seemed to offer her clarity, a chance to understand it all. "Sarah, please," Alex shouted again, his voice desperate. "Don't listen to them." But the temptation was too strong. Sarah could feel the pull of the box, the promise of knowledge and power. She took a deep breath, her mind racing with thoughts. Would she really be able to control this? What if she could unlock something amazing? As she stood there, torn between fear and desire, the whispers wrapped around her like a warm blanket. "Just a little longer," she thought again, unaware of the darkness she was inviting into her life. The night was only just beginning, and the consequences of her curiosity were about to unfold. As Sarah stood by the box, the dark mist swirled around her like a living thing. She felt its power, and for a moment, she forgot about her friend's fear. The whispers promised her secrets and strength. Just a little more, she thought, her heart pounding with excitement. Suddenly, the attic was filled with a loud noise, like 1,000 voices shouting at once. The walls shook, and the lights flickered wildly. Sarah gasped and stumbled back, fear finally creeping in. What's happening? She cried, looking around at her friends. The mist twisted and turned, forming dark shapes that hovered in the air. Shadows darted across the room. And the temperature dropped. Alex and Jamie stepped closer to Sarah, their faces pale with terror. Sarah, you have to close the box now, Alex shouted, panic in his voice. It's too late, it's not safe. But Sarah felt trapped. The mist was too powerful, and she could not look away from it. She wanted to know more, but deep down she felt something dark and dangerous creeping in. Suddenly, the first shadow lunged forward, racing towards Alex. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with fear. "Get away from me," he yelled, but the shadow wrapped around him, pulling him into its darkness. "Alex!" Jamie screamed, rushing to help, but the shadows began to fill the room, blocking their way. They twisted and turned, creating a wall of darkness. Sarah's heart sank as she watched her friends struggle. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered, feeling a wave of guilt wash over her. The mist was growing stronger, feeding on their fear and confusion. "Sarah, help us!" Jamie cried. Fighting against the shadows, the darkness seemed to drain his energy, and he looked weaker with each passing moment. Feeling desperate, Sarah finally took a step back. "No, I didn't want this," she shouted, trying to push away the mist, but the shadows only grew, reaching for her, wanting her to join them. In that moment, she realized that opening the box had consequences. The dark power was not something she could control. It wanted to spread chaos and fear. The whispers turned into harsh laughter, filling her mind with doubt and despair. "Why did I open it?" Sarah thought, tears streaming down her face. She saw her friends struggling, and the guilt consumed her. She needed to stop this, but how? With all her strength, Sarah shouted, "I'm sorry, I want to close it." She reached for the box again, but the mist pushed her away, as if it knew she wanted to escape. Then a new voice broke through the chaos, a low, cold voice that echoed in the attic. "You cannot close it now. You have opened the door to darkness." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" she asked, trembling. "You have unleashed what was meant to stay hidden," the voice replied. "The shadows are hungry, and they will not rest until they have consumed your fears." As the shadows tightened around her friends, Sarah knew she had to act fast. She took a deep breath, summoning all her courage. "I won't let you take them," she yelled, realizing that she had to face her fears. She had to fight back against the darkness she had invited in. With one last effort, she reached for the box again, determined to seal it away, but the shadows swirled around her, trying to pull her into their grip. Sarah was scared, but she couldn't give up. Her friends were counting on her, and she had to save them. As Sarah reached for the box, the shadows grew thicker, swirling around her like a storm. She felt their coldness gripping her heart, and panic filled her mind. "I have to fight back," she thought, desperate to save her friends. The shadows began to spread out, reaching towards Alex and Jamie. They struggled against the darkness, but it wrapped around them like chains. "Help us, Sarah," Alex shouted, his voice filled with fear. The mist surged, feeding on their terror. "It's getting worse," Jamie gasped, his strength fading the more they fought. The stronger the shadows became. They could feel the dark energy growing, feeding off their fears and doubts. The room felt alive, pulsing with dark power. The walls seemed to close in, and the air became heavy and thick. Sarah looked around and saw the shadows transforming. They were not just shapes anymore. They looked like dark figures, with twisted faces and empty eyes. "Leave them alone," Sarah yelled, feeling a wave of anger. But the shadows only laughed, their voices cold and mocking. "You opened the box, now you must pay the price," they whispered. In that moment, Sarah realized the truth. The shadows were feeding on her friends' emotions. Their fear made the shadows stronger. She had to help them confront their fears if they wanted to escape. "Think of something strong, something that makes you brave," Sarah cried, hoping her words would reach them. "Don't let them take you." Alex closed his eyes, trying to remember the times when he felt safe and happy. "I can do this," he shouted, forcing himself to push against the darkness. Jamie joined him, focusing on their friendship and the fun they had before this nightmare started. As they fought against the shadows, the mist began to tremble. Sarah felt a surge of hope. "Yes, keep fighting," she encouraged them. The shadows hissed and swirled, but their hold was weakening. But just when Sarah thought they might escape, the darkness lashed out. A shadow lunged at her, trying to pull her into its depths. "Join us," it hissed, its voice full of temptation. "You could have power. You could be free of your fears." For a moment, Sarah hesitated. The thought of having power was tempting, but then she saw her friends, struggling and scared. She couldn't let the shadows win. "No," she shouted, shaking off the dark thoughts, "I won't join you." With renewed strength, she pushed against the shadows. "We are stronger together," she yelled, reaching for her friends. Alex and Jamie opened their eyes, focusing on her voice. They felt her courage, and it gave them strength. Together, they fought against the shadows, pushing back with everything they had. The darkness screamed, twisting in agony as their combined strength pushed it away. Light began to break through the mist, illuminating the room. But the shadows were not done yet. They lashed out harder, trying to regain control. "You cannot escape," they shouted, their voices echoing in the attic. As the shadows battled against the light, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. She realized that if they could face their fears together, they could weaken the darkness even more. "Think of your happiest moments," she urged. "Hold on to that feeling." With that, the friends remembered their good times, laughing at school, sharing stories around the campfire, and being there for each other. As they focused on those memories, the light grew stronger, pushing the shadows back further. But they knew they had to act quickly. The darkness was still powerful, and time was running out. "We can do this," Sarah shouted. "Let's seal the box together." United, they took a step forward, pushing against the darkness. They reached the box and clasped their hands together. With one strong push, they shouted, "We will not be afraid." The light burst forth, and the shadows screamed, twisting and writhing. With one final effort, they closed the box, sealing away the darkness. The attic shook, and a bright light filled the room, chasing away the shadows. As the light faded, the friends fell to the ground, panting and exhausted. They had faced the darkness, but they knew the fight was not over yet. The shadows had been pushed back, but a lingering fear remained. They would need to confront the truth about what had happened that night, and what it meant for their friendship. After sealing the box, Sarah, Alex, and Jamie breathed heavily, their hearts racing. The attic was quiet now, but they could still feel a heaviness in the air. The shadows had retreated, but they knew they were not completely safe. "Did we really stop it?" Jamie asked, his voice shaky. He looked around the dark attic, still filled with old furniture and cobwebs. "What if it comes back?" "We have to stay together," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with worry. "We can't let the darkness win again." She glanced at the closed box, wondering if the evil was truly contained. The friends decided to leave the attic and find the others. As they stepped into the dark hallway, the atmosphere felt different. The air was thick and cold, and the shadows seemed to linger just out of sight. They walked carefully, listening for any signs of danger. Suddenly, they heard a loud crash from downstairs. The sound echoed through the house, making them jump. "What was that?" Alex whispered, fear creeping into his voice. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her heart pounding, "but we should check it out. We need to find everyone." As they moved down the stairs, the old wood creaked beneath their feet. They reached the bottom and saw that the living room was in chaos. Furniture was overturned, and the candles flickered wildly. The other friends were scattered, looking frightened and confused. "Where were you?" Mark, one of their friends, shouted as they entered. "We thought something terrible happened to you." "We're okay," Sarah said quickly, "but we need to stick together. The shadows might come back." Just then, a cold wind blew through the room, extinguishing the candles. The room plunged into darkness, and the friends gasped. They could hear whispers again, slithering through the air like snakes. "Stay close," Jamie urged, grabbing Sarah's arm. They huddled together as fear washed over them. The darkness felt alive, swirling and creeping around them. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from the corner, reaching for Mark. He screamed and fell back, trying to escape. "Help me," he cried, terror in his eyes. "Get away from him," Alex yelled, stepping forward, but the shadows were fast, grabbing at Mark and pulling him toward the wall. The friends needed to act quickly. "Think of your happy moments," Sarah shouted, remembering what had worked before. "Hold on to your memories." The friends closed their eyes, trying to remember the good times they shared. They thought of laughter, fun, and the bond they had formed. As they focused on these memories, a warm light began to glow from within them, pushing back the shadows. But the darkness was relentless. It wrapped around Mark tighter, dragging him toward the wall. "I can't hold on," he cried, his voice filled with fear. "Reach for us," Jamie shouted, stretching out his hand. "We can pull you back." With all their strength, the friends formed a line. each grabbing the next person's hand. They pulled together, focusing on Mark. "You can do it, just reach for us," Sarah encouraged, her heart racing. Mark reached out, and with one strong pull, the friends yanked him back from the shadows. He fell to the floor, breathing heavily, but he was safe. They all sighed in relief, but they knew the fight was far from over. "We can't let the shadows win," Sarah said, determination filling her voice. "We need to find a way to banish them for good." The friends nodded, knowing they had to work together. "What if we find more light?" Alex suggested. "Maybe we can use it to keep the shadows away." "Good idea," Jamie agreed. "Let's search the house for candles or flashlights. We need to create a safe place." They quickly spread out, searching for anything that could help them. Sarah dashed into the kitchen, her heart pounding as she looked for supplies. She found a box of matches and a few candles. "I have some," she shouted, feeling hopeful. Meanwhile, Alex and Jamie searched the living room. They found a flashlight hidden under a couch. "This will help," Jamie said. Turning it on, the bright beam cut through the darkness, pushing the shadows back. As they regrouped, they lit the candles, filling the room with a warm glow. The flickering light chased away some of the darkness, but they could still feel it lurking nearby. "We need to be ready," Sarah said, her voice serious. "The shadows will come again. We must stick together and fight." With their hearts pounding, the friends formed a plan. They decided to stay in the living room, where they had some light. They would keep watch for any signs of the shadows, and stay close to each other. As they sat together, the tension grew. Every creak of the house made them jump. They could hear the whispers in the darkness, and fear settled over them like a heavy blanket, but they were determined to survive. "We won't let them take us," Sarah promised, holding onto the candle tightly. The friends exchanged looks of determination. They had each other, and together, they would face whatever came next. As the friends sat in the living room, surrounded by flickering candles and the beam of the flashlight, a sense of fear lingered in the air. The whispers of the shadows were faint but always present. Yet, amid the fear, a small light of hope began to grow inside Sarah. "We have to believe we can fight this," she said, her voice steady. "The shadows feed on our fear. If we stay strong together, we can push them back for good." The others nodded, though worry still filled their eyes. Mark, still shaken from his close encounter, took a deep breath. "You're right, Sarah. We can't let them win. We have to find a way to banish them completely." Jamie looked around the room, thinking hard. "Maybe we can use the box. If we can find a way to seal it for good, it might stop the shadows from coming back." Sarah's heart raced at the idea. "Yes, we need to find a way to use the box against them. If we can figure out how it works, we might have a chance." Alex chimed in. "We should check the diary I saw earlier in the attic. It might have answers about the box and how to deal with the shadows." He felt a spark of hope, knowing they had a plan. With determination, they gathered their things. "Let's go back to the attic," Sarah said, lighting a candle and holding it high. "We have to stay together and stay strong." They moved cautiously back up the stairs, the candlelight flickering against the dark walls. The air felt heavy, but the friends focused on each other, their bonds giving them strength. As they reached the attic, the atmosphere felt different. The shadows were still lurking, but the light from their candles pushed them back. The box sat silently in the corner, waiting. "Where's the diary?" Jamie asked, scanning the room. They had to find it quickly before the shadows could gather strength again. Sarah remembered where she had seen it last. "I think it was over there," she pointed to a pile of old books and papers in the corner. They rushed over, quickly flipping through the dusty pages, feeling the urgency grow. Finally, Mark found it. "Here it is," he exclaimed, holding the old diary up. The cover was worn and the pages were yellowed with age. They gathered around, eager to learn its secrets. As they flipped through the pages, they found strange symbols and old stories about the house. One passage caught Sarah's eye. "To contain the shadows, one must face their own darkness." "What does that mean?" Jamie asked, looking confused. "It means we have to confront our fears," Sarah explained, her mind racing. "Each of us has something we're afraid of. If we face it, we can weaken the shadows and take away their power. But how do we do that?" Alex asked, feeling uncertain. "We have to share our fears," Sarah said. "It might be scary, but if we do it together, we can support each other." The friends looked at each other, fear in their eyes but also a sense of hope. They all had something they were afraid of, but sharing it could make them stronger. Okay, I'll go first, Mark said, his voice shaking. I'm afraid of losing all of you. When I was pulled by the shadows, I felt so helpless. I thought I would never see you again. His honesty hung in the air, and the others nodded, understanding his fear. We're here for you, Jamie said gently. We won't let that happen. I'm scared of the dark, Alex admitted next. I know it sounds silly, but being in this house and feeling the shadows makes me feel trapped. It's not silly, Sarah reassured him. We all have fears, and you're not alone. Finally, it was Jamie's turn. I'm afraid of not being strong enough, he said, his voice low. I don't want to let you down. I feel like I have to protect everyone, but I'm scared I won't be able to. Sarah felt a surge of determination. You are strong, Jamie. We all are. Together, we can face anything. We're a team. As they shared their fears, the shadows outside the candlelight seemed to weaken. The air felt lighter, and the whispers became softer. They were breaking the hold the darkness had on them. With renewed courage, Sarah held up the diary. Now, let's figure out how to seal the box for good. We have to finish what we started. As they pored over the diary, the light of hope grew within them. They were not just fighting against the shadows, they were standing together, stronger than ever. With their fears shared and their bonds reinforced, they knew they had a chance to banish the darkness once and for all. As Sarah and her friends gathered around the diary in the attic, their hearts were full of hope. They had faced their fears, and now they felt stronger together. They read carefully, searching for a way to seal the box and end the shadow threat once and for all. After a few minutes of reading, Sarah found a passage that made her heart race. Look at this, she said, pointing to the words. It says that to seal the box. We need to make a strong decision as a group. We must all agree on what we want to do. What do you mean? Alex asked, looking confused. What kind of decision? The diary says that our choice must come from our hearts, Sarah explained. We have to decide together what we want to do with the shadows and the box. Jamie furrowed his brow. We all want to be safe, right? But what if we have to sacrifice something? The room grew quiet as they considered this. The shadows outside the candlelight seemed to whisper, almost as if they were listening. I don't want to lose anyone, Mark said softly, but if it means stopping the darkness, I would do it. Sarah nodded. We all care about each other. Whatever decision we make, we have to stick together. We can't let fear control us anymore. As they thought about their options, Sarah felt a wave of determination. We can choose to lock the box and banish the shadows. But if we do that, we might have to give up something we love or something we fear. What if it means giving up our memories of this night? Jamie suggested. What if we forget everything that happened here? The thought made them all shiver. Losing their memories felt scary, but the thought of the shadows winning was worse. We can't let them take us, Alex said firmly. I would rather forget than let them control us. Mark looked at each of his friends, their faces filled with fear and resolve. Whatever it takes, we need to make this choice together. We can't leave the box open for the shadows to return. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their decision. So, we all agree, we will seal the box, even if it means losing our memories of this night? One by one, they nodded. Yes, Jamie said quietly, we will do it. The shadows outside the candlelight began to swirl faster. Sensing their decision, Sarah could feel the air growing colder, but she stood tall. We have to do this now, she said. Let's gather around the box. They moved closer to the box, each friend holding hands, forming a circle of support. With the candlelight shining brightly, they felt connected, their hearts beating as one. On the count of 3, we will make our decision, Sarah said, her voice strong. We will seal the box and banish the shadows forever. Ready? Jamie asked, glancing at each friend. They all looked determined, ready to face whatever came next. 1, 2, 3, they shouted together. As they said the words, a bright light filled the room. The shadows hissed and writhed, trying to escape the box. The air crackled with energy as the friends focused on their decision. Together, Sarah shouted, we choose light over darkness. With that, they pushed their hands toward the box, pouring all their courage and hope into their decision. The light grew stronger, enveloping them, pushing the shadows back. The box began to glow, and they felt the warmth of their shared strength. The shadows screamed, their dark forms twisting and writhing. You cannot stop us, they hissed, but the friends held on tight, refusing to let fear take hold. As the light surged, the whispers faded, and the shadows began to dissolve. The friends focused on their decision, knowing they had made the right choice. They would sacrifice their memories to protect each other and banish the darkness for good. In that moment, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. They were stronger together, and nothing could tear them apart. They had faced their fears and made their choice. With one final push, the box sealed itself with a brilliant flash of light. The darkness was gone, and the attic filled with warmth. They felt free, the weight of the shadows lifted from their hearts. As the light faded, the friends looked at each other, their faces filled with relief. They had done it. They had faced the darkness and won, but deep down, each of them wondered what they had lost in the process. As the bright light faded from the attic, Sarah, Alex, Jamie, and Mark stood together, feeling both relieved and exhausted. They had sealed the box and banished the shadows, but a strange silence filled the air. The darkness was gone, but they all sensed something was missing. "Did it really work?" Jamie asked, glancing around the room. The attic felt different, lighter, but also empty. "I think so," Sarah replied, her heart still racing. "But I feel strange, like something is gone." Mark looked worried. "What do you mean? Are we safe now?" "Yes, we are safe," Alex said, trying to reassure everyone, "but maybe we lost something important in the process." Suddenly, a cool breeze swept through the attic, and the candles flickered. The friends huddled closer together, feeling a chill. The box sat silently in the corner, now sealed, but the air felt heavy with unspoken feelings. "I think we sacrificed more than just our memories," Sarah said slowly. "The diary warned us, to banish the shadows, we might have to give up something we love deeply." "What could that be?" Jamie asked, his brow furrowing. "We fought so hard." As if in response, the box began to glow softly. The friends stared at it, feeling a strange pull. "What is happening?" Mark asked, fear creeping into his voice. "We made a decision together," Sarah said, her heart pounding, "but maybe it requires one last sacrifice." At that moment, a vision flashed in Sarah's mind. She saw herself and her friends laughing, sharing stories, and creating memories, but then those memories began to fade, slipping away like grains of sand. She realized they might have to give up more than just this night. They could lose their friendship as well. "No," Sarah shouted, feeling panic rise, "we can't lose each other." "But it might be the only way to keep the shadows away," Alex said, his voice low. "We can't let them come back." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she looked at her friends. "I don't want to forget all the good times we had together. You all mean too much to me." "I don't want to forget either," Jamie said, his voice thick with emotion. "But if this is what we have to do, I'm ready to face it." Mark took a deep breath. "Maybe we don't have to lose everything. We can hold on to the love we have for each other, even if we can't remember the details." "That's true," Sarah said, feeling a flicker of hope. "Love is stronger than any memory. If we focus on that, maybe we can survive this." As they spoke, the box pulsed with energy. The air grew thick, and the shadows seemed to whisper again, as if testing their resolve. The friends joined hands, standing strong against the darkness that had once threatened to tear them apart. "We must make our final decision together," Sarah said, her voice steady. "No matter what happens, we will face it as friends. We will not let fear win." The friends nodded, their hearts united. "Together," they said in unison. As they held hands tightly, Sarah felt a warm glow surround them. They closed their eyes, focusing on the love they shared. They remembered the laughter, the joy, and the support they had given each other. With one final push, they shouted, "We choose love over fear." The box began to glow brighter, and the shadows hissed, swirling around them. But this time, the friends stood firm. They could feel the darkness trying to break their bond, but they held on tighter. Suddenly, the light exploded from the box, engulfing them in warmth. The shadows screamed, their forms dissolving into nothingness. The friends felt a rush of energy, and in that moment, they knew they had made the ultimate sacrifice. The light faded, and when they opened their eyes, they found themselves standing in the attic, filled with sunlight. The box was gone, and the air felt fresh and clean. But as they looked at each other, they realized something had changed. Their memories of the night were gone, but they still felt a deep connection. It was as if their hearts remembered what they had shared, even if their minds did not. "I feel different," Jamie said, looking around, "but I don't feel alone." "Me too," Sarah said, smiling through her tears. "We may have lost our memories, but we still have each other." Mark nodded. "And that's what really matters." The friends embraced, knowing they had faced the darkness together. They may not remember the details of that night, but the love and strength they had built would always remain in their hearts. They had made the ultimate sacrifice, but they had also found something more powerful, an unbreakable bond that would carry them forward into the future. As the friends stood in the warm light of the attic, they embraced, feeling the strength of their connection. They had faced darkness together and had made a sacrifice to protect one another. But even as they held each other tightly, a lingering question filled the air. "What happens now?" Alex asked, breaking the silence. "We don't remember everything that happened." Sarah looked around the sunny attic. "I don't know, but I feel like we're starting fresh. We can make new memories together." "But what if the shadows come back?" Jamie asked, worry creeping into his voice. "What if we forget again?" Mark shook his head. "We may not remember this night, but we learned something important. We know that we are stronger together. If we stay united, we can face anything." The friends nodded, feeling a wave of hope wash over them. They had each other, and that was enough. But as they turned to leave the attic, a strange feeling washed over Sarah. It was a mix of familiarity and mystery, like a dream she couldn't fully remember. As they stepped outside, the sun shone brightly and the world felt new. They walked together, laughing and talking, feeling lighthearted. But Sarah glanced back at the house, feeling a pull to the attic again. "Wait," she said, stopping. "What about the box? What if it's not really gone?" The others turned to look at her, uncertainty filling their eyes. "Do you think it could come back?" Jamie asked, his voice soft. "I don't know," Sarah replied, feeling a shiver run down her spine. "But we need to stay aware. We made a choice, and choices can have consequences." Just then they heard a soft whisper carried by the wind. It was faint, but it seemed to call to them. The friends exchanged worried glances. "Did you hear that?" Mark asked. "Yes," Sarah said, her heart racing. "It sounded like the shadows." They all turned to the house, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. "Maybe we should go back," Alex suggested. "We need to be sure it's really over." Together they walked back toward the house, their hearts pounding. As they climbed the stairs to the attic, they felt a strange energy in the air, as if something was waiting for them. The room was filled with sunlight, but a shadow still lingered in the corner, barely noticeable. "What is that?" Jamie whispered, pointing. The friends stepped closer, and as they approached, they saw a small, dark shape. It looked like a tiny box, not the big one they had sealed, but something different, something new. "Is it a new box?" Mark asked, fear creeping into his voice. "It looks like it," Sarah replied, her eyes wide. "But why is it here?" As they stood before the new box, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them. It was as if the shadows were trying to speak, trying to reach out. Sarah felt a mix of dread and curiosity. "What do we do?" she asked, looking at her friends. "I think we should open it," Jamie said, taking a step forward. "We need to know if it's dangerous." "Wait," Alex said, grabbing Jamie's arm. "What if it brings back the darkness?" Sarah took a deep breath. "We faced the shadows before. We can do it again, but we have to be careful. We need to decide together." As they stood before the box, they felt the weight of their choice. The decision hung in the air, an enigma that would shape their future. Would they open it and risk bringing back the darkness, or would they leave it sealed and hold on to their newfound hope? With hearts racing, they looked at one another, knowing that whatever they chose, they would face it together. The power of their friendship was stronger than any shadow. But deep down, they all wondered, what mysteries lay within the box, and would they be ready for whatever came next? As they took a step closer, the answers remained hidden, waiting for the moment when they would make their choice once again.